What's going on, guys? In today's episode, we're going to cover everything that is going to happen through these series of podcasts. My name is Alexa Benya, and I will be your host as we go on through these chapters of this amazing journey that I am super excited to just share with all of you. A little bit about who I am. Just some key points here, and I want this podcast to be something that you can overall learn anything that is going to help you change your paradigm in your life. And if you do not know what a paradigm is, it is essentially patterns that have happened in your life that have conditioned you to be who you are today. Now, this is something that has been now embedded in you, whether that was through your parents, whether that was through lack of having parents, whatever the situation might be, this is how our paradigms are formed. It is a habitual behavior. And I don't know about you all, but for the longest time in my life, I was somebody that just felt as if everything and anything was just going wrong. I felt because I didn't have parents, I was already losing at this game called life. I felt as if because I didn't have money, I was just not going to succeed. I had so many situations in my life that overall conditioned me to believe that I was unworthy. And this is something so profound for me because the moment that I learned through adversity, through hard lessons in life, through so many situations that just really made you analyze what in the world am I doing, that is how things really changed for me. And I hope that this podcast can be something that you can listen to and realize that you're not alone. You are not the only one that is going through these lessons in life. And my goal is to inspire more people to break out of their paradigm. I want people to believe in themselves. I want people to understand how powerful you really are and the innate power that you are born with. There is this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you all have read that book, but if you have not, I highly recommend it. This book essentially talks about how we are all already in this abundance within. However, most of us have been conditioned once again by our paradigm to believe we are not worthy, to believe we cannot succeed, to believe that we are not able to achieve what we see, whether that be through peers, whether that be through television, whether that be through articles that you're reading, whatever the case might be. For the most of us, we were raised in a way of really just being in a lack mentality. Now, this is something that for me has become a passion because I have seen in my life. I am currently 26 years old, and I remember once upon a time making $16,000 a year. I know, right? How do you even survive? Well, making $16,000 a year really humbled me. This was when I had my first born child. He is now 7 years old. And I remember at that time I was 18 when I got pregnant with him, 19 when I had him. And it was one of those situations where I just remember wanting more in my life. And I share this with you because consciously or subconsciously, you're manifesting things into this world. We just don't realize how much we're manifesting because we're so caught up on what negative things have continued to happen that we think negatively. We're in a state of lack, right? So we're thinking, oh my gosh, everything is happening to me, when in reality, everything is actually happening for us, for our growth. It's all about your perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, how you react to any situation is what's going to determine how you move forward with any event. So at that time, I remember just really wanting to do something better for my life. I wanted to grow. And again, subconsciously, I was manifesting. I was already manifesting without realizing that I was doing so. And I remember that at one point I was approached by a recruiting agency. I did not know that at the time, but essentially the recruiting agency was looking for people in the financial services industry. And if you're listening to this and those words just like resonated with you, then you were probably approached by somebody in that field. And essentially what it is people that are recruiting somebody to help them get their license for life insurance or health insurance or both. Now, for me, that was amazing. At that time, I just felt like the call I had been asking for was there and was giving me the opportunity to essentially now be able to go into this world that I knew nothing about. And I want to add really quick that it does not matter where in life you are. The point is to start. Even in this podcast, like there's so many things that people want to do to try and get perfect as best as we can because we're afraid of what others are going to think or we're afraid of how we're going to come across. But in the end, there's always going to be people that are either going to resonate with your message and others that won't. And you should never stop your dreams simply because of fear of who is going to resonate with you and who isn't. Your tribe will come, and that is something that will continue to happen time and time again. So for me, I say this because I remember that at that time, it was exactly what I needed. And I do not regret any of the steps, any of the people that I've met, any of the situations that I've made, because they all have led me to this moment in my life. And I want to invite you to have that perspective because sometimes we beat ourselves down and think, oh my gosh, everything that I've done, if I could have done it differently and maybe I would have been at this place. No, everything happened the way that it was supposed to happen. Now, what are you going to do about what you have decided on, right? How are you going to move forward from that situation? So, needless to say, after all of that, I remember that at one point in time, I got my license. I started in the life insurance industry, and I remember going to this event. And if you guys are interested in hearing like more in depth about that story, definitely let me know. For now, I am making this quick and concise because I don't want to keep you here all day listening to that story, but we can definitely have a story time another day if that's something you're interested in. So I went to this event. I was dead broke because remember, I was making $16,000 a year and I figured it out. That was a whole journey within itself. We literally went to this like Motel 6 to stay over there because we had no money. And I just remember being at that event was a pivotal moment in my life. I didn't even realize what it was doing internally. I had never been in a room full of winners like that. I had never been in a room full of people with such drive and ambition that really believed anything was possible. They were truly actually embodying what it is they were talking about. And I remember one person went up on stage and he was talking about how he had been able to buy his mom her very own house and how proud he was of her. And of course, like everything that he had been working on. And the mom was actually like also on the same like wavelength, right? She was like, oh my gosh, like how could I say anything? Like this is just like priceless, right? So I remember listening to that as I'm like sitting down and I'm just looking at these people talk about their stories, their winning stories. And that just inspired me. It inspired me beyond belief. And I knew that I was going to be something in this life. Before that, I had gone through so many struggles. I shared briefly. And like I said, if you guys are interested in more of the story time, I will definitely do that as a follow-up video, maybe on the next episode. But I went through so much adversity. I mean, to the point where at one point when I was living with my mom, like we had no food, like we went through struggles. In one of the places where I was living with my grandmother, we literally were living in a storage, so there are so many things that we had gone through that for me being in a situation where I was seeing this person up on stage, Latino background, just like myself, and winning, I was like, no, like that's something that doesn't just happen, right? Because remember, your paradigm is conditioned by situations that you are basically now being conditioned by through obviously generations or through people that are around you. And it just becomes your belief system at the end of the day. So what you don't know, right? And I've heard that so many times and it didn't resonate with me until I started realizing like this world out there that was available. So with that being said, I decided that I wanted to do something. And again, this show is called Walking Manifestator. Why is that? Because we are all living walking manifestators. It doesn't mean you have to walk to manifest. It does not mean that you are not capable of doing it if you're in a situation where maybe you feel like that title doesn't resonate directly with you. I want you to know that regardless of the situation, you have this innate power in you to truly be a living manifestator, which is why I say walking manifestator, because whether that is actually, consciously something you're doing or unconsciously something you're doing, it is there in your overall life. So for me, unconsciously, I was already manifesting. I was manifesting that I wanted a better life. I was manifesting, I was asking God, hey, this is something that I want. And like I said, for me, for the longest time, I did not have a strong belief system because of everything I had been through. My grandmother, she was super religious, but for me, everything that I had really just gone through really took me to a completely different side at one point. And this is where, for me, the synchronicity started to slowly show up. And I remember at one point, I was in a situation where I was just not in the most ideal relationship. I am not going to talk bad about that person because, as I said, everything that happens in your life happens for a reason. Everybody is either a lesson or a blessing. And I will say that time and time again because once upon a time, I was a very petty person. So I have grown from that and I learned a lot in that situation. So this person and I were just not in a good relationship. Well, when I ended up getting out of that relationship, I had gotten my real estate license while we were together. And because again, I was just trying to make more money, I was trying to grow, and I saw real estate as an opportunity because with the life and health insurance industry, I just didn't see such a passion. I saw the passion from helping people, which is why that person really touched my heart when he was talking up on stage and sharing his story and just telling everybody how he had made something happen and he was growing his team. But for me, I wanted something different. And this is another side note for you if you're listening to this right now. Find your why. So many people say that. And I remember at one point, I did not resonate with that. Like, find my why. Like, what do you mean? But you need to understand that if you're living an unfulfilled life, you're always going to feel like there's something lacking. I'm a mom of two boys, and at this current time, as I'm recording this episode, I am single. I've been single for going into a year now. And I have really taken that time to work on myself because I remember at one point in time feeling like I needed to be with somebody in order to fully be happy and fulfilled. But that was just me projecting. That was just me thinking I was missing something instead of looking at within and seeing what I really needed to focus on. And I invite you to do the same thing because until you don't live a life fulfilled, you're always going to be looking for something in someone that you need to find in yourself. And listen to that again. Like, it cannot be about, oh, I'm going to get in this relationship with somebody because this person is going to make me happy. Because then you're making your happiness conditional upon that other person's love. Therefore, the moment that they leave, if that were to be the case, you're back to being unhappy. Same thing with the job, same thing with your kids even at that point, because if you're not happy the day of tomorrow when they go and branch out to the world, you're devastated because you didn't work on you and what made you happy. And if you're in a situation like I was where it's like, well, like, how do you expect me to make time for that when I am handling all these things, my business, maybe my job, or maybe my kids, and I'm single and I have no help. Trust me, I know what that feels like. And this is why we're making this podcast, to talk about everything that not only myself has actually been able to implement, but that other people have been able to work through, that has allowed them to really live up to their desires. So with that being said, I branched into real estate, and my first 2 years were honestly one of the hardest encounters in my life. It was a lot of tests that were thrown at that time. And I remember that at that point, I honestly felt like I wanted to give up, but I knew within me that I was going to make this happen. And this is why I say you're a walking manifestator, because whatever you say is what's going to come into fruition. If you are constantly talking to yourself and telling yourself that you are not worthy, telling yourself that you are not capable of doing these things, if you are constantly telling yourself that somebody else is better than you, the universe is giving you more of that. And this is something that for most of us, we've been separated from God. We've been like, okay, it's God and then it's us. However, I think, this is my belief, that there's so much misconstruction on the overall message that has been sent generation through generation. And let me explain. Somebody once upon a time had the message that was given to him by God, and they wrote it down in a Bible, and this has been what's been taught through years. However, and humor me for a second, that message was how he internalized it. I don't know if you've ever played phone, but if you have not, then phone is basically like a game where you say something to somebody, and then that somebody says it to the next person, and then the next person, and then the next person, until it's like 10 people. And by the time it gets to the first person that said the message is completely different from what the first person actually said. So for me, I believe that the message has been changed to what that person took from that conversation. And for me, I think we are 100% part of God. Therefore, we are created in his image. Therefore, he has given us all the tools, all the power to truly live our life's purpose here on earth. However, the law of polarity, and we're going to be talking about that as we're going through these chapters, through this beautiful journey that we're going to embark together. But there's positive, there's negative. And I like to see it as contrast, because it makes you appreciate the good. Without bad, you cannot appreciate the good, because you would not know what good is. So a lot of the times people have been separated from what has created us. And if you really resonate with that power that is within you, you know that you have all the tools in your arsenal for you to truly be the best and highest version of yourself. You are a spiritual being having a physical experience in a human body. Listen to that. You are a spiritual being having a physical experience in a human body. And I just feel like there's so many different perspectives when it comes to that. And for me, what helped me feel better about the situation I was going through was to not only go through the bad, however, to internalize that all of those things actually did happen for my growth, for me to be able to talk to all of you guys right now from a point of experience. Because I remember at one point in time hearing people talk about, oh, well, you just got to work hard and you have to focus. And if you study really hard and you get a good job and X, Y, and Z, you're going to be successful. However, for the longest time, when I would hear these people talk, number one, I would say, yeah, easy for you to say because you have a mom and a dad. Yeah, easy for you to say because you have money. Yeah, easy for you to say because you haven't had all the contrast that I've had. But you see, everybody's here to have their own unique experience. And just because they had those things does not mean that they did not have to struggle and go through their own journey. And for me, They're here to talk to a certain type of people that are going to resonate with their message, just like I'm here to talk to a certain type of people that have been through what I've been through, or similar situations, or even worse situations that are going to resonate with the fact that, oh my gosh, it does not matter that I've been through these things. I actually can be a better version of myself. So, with that being said, now, in this time, as a 26-year-old, I own my very own Airbnb. I have a very successful real estate agency. I have generated over 6 figures in just my real estate side. I'm also an investor, so I do buy homes and I flip them. That has been also generating over 6 figures. And at this point in time, I have launched my very own coaching program, which is tied into Walking Manifestator, and it is unleashing your true power. This is geared around overall empowering you and helping you understand how much power you truly hold within. My goal is to be able to take this across the globe to truly help teach our youth, our kids, about the power that they have. Because if you humor me for another second and you think about this, what made you in your life think that you were not worthy? Like, think about that. Somebody at one point in time made you feel that way. Somebody at one point in time told you you were fat. Somebody at one point in time told you that you were ugly. Somebody told you that you were poor and why were you wearing the same clothes? Somebody made you feel inferior. And you gave them that power because you did not know how to really value what you are. You are beautifully unique. And you see, I say those things also from experience because somebody also told me those things once upon a time. And it wasn't until I changed my paradigm and really learned to love myself that I was not able to break from that belief. Because people would say, like, oh, well, again, I remember I had this teacher in third grade that I was raised in this like area where, again, like the school system just wasn't, the best. And I remember going to this French teacher and I was like in awe because she knew French, and that was just like one of my biggest things that I was like obsessed with when I took that class. And I told her that I wanted to be an attorney. And it was so, I mean, at this point now I realize what she did. Now I, bless her heart, because I don't know, maybe she, came from a different perspective, and maybe she had parents that also made her believe that. And I'm nobody to judge. So I'm sharing this from a situation that, again, I can speak from the heart now and look back and say, wow, that affected me at that time. But I told her that I wanted to be an attorney. And she told me, well, maybe you should consider doing something else that's easier. And it broke my heart at that time, of course. And like now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, like that really influenced so many decisions moving forward for me. And that's what's happened with you. And it's about taking accountability, because we cannot continue to point the finger at other people and allow them to have such control over us. We are here to write our own movie, not to be an extra in our movie. So the more that we internalize with that and actually understand that we hold that power and that we're able to truly write our destiny, that is truly when you have that moment in your life where you realize how powerful you truly are, how beautiful you are, and how much innate grace you were born with. And I want to invite more of us to invest that into our youth, because if we're able to teach them from a young age that they have all the tools at their arsenal, the sky would truly be the limit. You see, I have this like really amazing mentor. He's passed away now, and I would always study his material. He's one of them. And as we're going through the series, I'll be sharing more names and quotes and whatnot. But Bob Proctor was talking about how they were asking the brothers about how it was that at one point in time they created the car. And a lot of people laughed at them when they were creating the car, and they were like, what, you're trying to get something off the wheels of a wagon and now create a car? And for them, they envisioned that in their mind before they brought it into existence. And that is something that for most of us, we've had all these dreams, but we allowed them to crush our dreams. And I want to invite you to become aware of what you truly desire. You have all the tools at your disposal. It does not matter your background. It does not matter your ethnicity. It does not matter your upbringing. None of those things matter. What if all those things were actually the reason why you can succeed? What if all of those things happen so that you can talk to people from experience and share with them how much power they truly hold? You see, I believe that we are all here for a purpose. And at the end of the day, we get to decide because we have freedom. We have the freedom to choose. What you choose is up to you. A dream is simply a thought. Energy brings it to life. The more energy that you are putting into the things that you want to actually bring into this 3D world, the more you're going to flow, and the more that the universe is going to give you all the opportunities for you to succeed and become the truest and highest version of yourself. So with that being said, I am so excited to embark this journey with you all. It was a pleasure to spend these minutes with you, and I definitely look forward to the next episode. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and remember, you are a walking manifestator.